And we're talking about the mood of the country. A lot of people think it's changing. And so the big question is America heading in the right direction?
Yeah, joining us this morning, Nick Papadich, Republican candidate for the 51st Congressional District, going up against Bob Filner. Nick, good morning.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Good morning, Dan.
You got it. We're going to show in a little while, we're going to show a clip of this ad, and it's from Citizens Against Government Waste. And it's really an eye-opener when you look at it. You've seen it before. We're all going to look at it together. We'll get a comment on it. But you've brought in some things here this morning, and we're sort of talking about the country and where we're going and the wars that we're involved in and things like this. Why don't you show us what you brought? Well, this is really interesting.
This is it's a very special thing for me. Am I pointing it the right way?
Yeah.
And this is a piece of the Saddam Hussein statue from downtown Baghdad. And it's very special to me because this was a very special day for me when we were down there, because the Iraqi people were a big unknown in this new, when we first went in there.
Yeah. So, and this right behind you, that's the statue on the ground.
That is, yes, ma'am.
It's pretty incredible. Right. Wow.
And you're standing in front of it. And that day, of course, Nick, we all remember that day.
Well, the reason it was so special for me, because it's at that point, that's where the war took a change for me. Because I'd been a platoon sergeant, and prior to that, everything was concerned more with the toppling of the Saddam regime, the killing of their military. And at that point, it's when these two nations came together as allies, as this was actually about the expansion of freedom. And for those of us on the ground, that's certainly what it was to us. And for me, it was a very special day, and I always like to remember it. I'm glad I got a piece of souvenir there, and I brought it in today.
Oh, that is a valuable piece of history, no doubt.
So if America is headed in the wrong direction, how do we get back on track? How do we get on the right direction?
Well, for me, it was a day like this. It was seeing liberty at its most grassroots level. People who'd never known a day's freedom, and seeing them experience it, seeing them just taste it. As a result of our nation being there and standing beside them. So I think it's very important we cling to those roots we remember. For me, on that day, I thought of the fact that I've never known a day without liberty. I've never known a day that I've never known a single day in my life that was their daily reality.
Something that many times we take for granted.
We take it for granted. It's very important to remember that it wasn't free, that those generations before us. In my case, I was born in 1967 when those Vietnam era veterans were all fighting for my freedom, all fighting the expansion of communism. My father fought in the Korean War against the expansion of communism. That greatest generation, all these Americans that went before us, that safeguarded this, that fought for it, shed blood for it, and passed it down to us. I think it's absolutely critical at this time in our lives, at this time in our nation's history, that we remember that these things were passed down to us, they were safeguarded and given to us, and we had better not take them for granted. We had better cherish them and safeguard them in the manner that they were safeguarded for us.
You mind showing us a few more of your pictures?
Oh, these are well, actually, this is from this is my tank crew, because toppling a statue, that doesn't free a nation. There was going to be a lot of heavy lifting ahead, so I would find myself fighting in Fallujah the following year, and that's where I was wounded in action during a battle for Fallujah.
Nick, tell us what happened in that, just very quickly. Obviously, a lot of people have called you a hero, and what happened that day?
Well, it was 2004, the April fight for Fallujah, and that was kind of the enemy's surge. And so we went in there to fight with them, and in a counterinsurgency, if they're going to come out in the open and fight with you, that's exactly what you want them to do. So it was very bad for them and very successful for our side, and I was commanding a tank in that battle. And so my tank crew did some very successful things in that fight, some very, very devastating things to the enemy. And but unfortunately, sometimes the good guys get hit too, and I was wounded in that battle. I was hit in the head by a rocket. Now, two of those individuals in that picture, they were wounded also. And while I was bleeding to death on the floor of that turret, these two individuals, Lance Corporal Hernandez and Corporal Chambers, stepped up without hesitation, wounded. They went up, they manned their machine guns, and the top of the tank was on fire, and these two individuals fought to continue to attack forward. And the youngest guy in there, Lance Corporal Frias, 19 years old. This guy was one year out of high school. Frias is the one all the way on the right. Chambers is the one next to him. I'm in the middle, and on the far left, as you're looking at, is Lance Corporal Hernandez.
Yeah.
And
so these guys might have
saved my life.
Yeah.
They absolutely saved my life that day.
You were actually hit in the head with a mortar round?
A rocket-propelled grenade.
Rocket-propelled grenade.
God bless me with a hard head. And I had some extremely good body armor on, and just surrounded by some great folks. Matter of fact, when I got to the medevac site, they were working on me, and I couldn't see. I'd had one eye blown out of my head, and I'd had the other one blown down in my sinus cavity, so I couldn't see anything. And I felt like I was being buried. And I said, "What are you doing?" And they said, "We're being mortar attacked, Gunny." And these corpsmen, these young Americans, I couldn't pick them out of a lineup today. They were taking off their own body armor, everything they had in life, protecting them. They were taking off and piling it on me to save my life, to protect me. And you know, just done so freely, so selflessly. And I couldn't pick them out of a lineup today. You know, I never got a chance to see them, say thank you, anything like that. So I mean, God knows how many more individuals they've been doing that for since.
Well, you have some good angels.
Yeah.
You have one more picture, and then we're going to take a look at this clip of this.
This was from the march up to Baghdad. This is just me and some buddies in Baghdad. This one doesn't have the great story behind it. The previous one does. This one's a little bit of a letdown after that one, but just a lot of great Americans, and these are just the guys you go to war with. These are, you know, sometimes you snap a photo here and there when you get a chance, and just to remember them all and how many great people I was always surrounded by.
Well, and thank you for your service.
Oh, my pleasure, my pleasure. I love serving this nation. It's you want to know that what you did in life made a difference, that God put you in a place that you were allowed to make a difference, and when you have that feeling, it's a true blessing in life.
All right, let's talk about this clip here that's coming up.
Yes,
and
sir.
Basically, you know, a lot of people are wondering, where's America going? Where's our economy going? Is China taking over the world? You know, China basically holds trillions of dollars in our debt, and this clip sort of addresses that on where America is going right now through the eyes of this person. Let's listen.
I've already told you it was all going to work out somehow. There was even talk of an amendment, but no one was willing to make the sacrifices. I'm afraid you're much too young to understand.
Maybe so, but I'm afraid the numbers speak for themselves. By 1986, for example, the national debt had reached $2 trillion. Didn't that frighten you?
No one really knows what another generation of unchecked federal deficits will bring.
This frightens me.
No more questions.
I have a question. Are you ever going to forgive us?
But we know this much. You can change the future. You have to. At WR Grace, we want all of us to stay one step ahead of a changing world.
All right. Pretty powerful ad.
Boy.
Basically saying next generation's going to be not
In big trouble.
in good shape.
Yeah.
Well, it's fictional, and you know, but it brings up a good point. It
Yeah.
brings up a lot of great points, and that's exactly why I decided to run for Congress, because all those things that were safeguarded and handed down to my generation, to us here today, we need to safeguard them and pass on that same liberty, that same prosperity. You know, when I turned 18, there were jobs aplenty, and now when our kids turn 18, not the same reality for them. And the same with all these easy fixes to solutions. If you start turning to the government for easy fixes to everyday problems, they come at a cost of some of your liberty. And there will be a price tag for this down the road, be it in lost liberty, lost prosperity. And there are enemies to our nation who see this weakness in us, and they're absolutely ready to capitalize on it. And we need to
China.
recognize, absolutely, and we need to recognize that that is a threat to our national security, in addition to just downright dishonorable to not safeguard this and pass this down to our next generation in the manner it was given to us.
And Nick, with just a few days left until we head to the polls, what message do you have for voters at a time where we can make a difference?
Look for courage. Look for courage in your representation, because it's easy for. When I first got into this race, you know, I looked at what do politicians do, and they're always making promises. I promise a chicken in every pot, and I promise this, and I promise that, and what I'm bringing is courage. The courage to say no to easy fixes, to say no to earmarks, say no to bought votes. So that's what I would say is look at the price tag for the things that are being promised to you, and are you willing to put your nation first ahead of an easy fix? Because a lot of these politicians out here are hoping you're not. They're hoping you're going to buy an easy fix and they're going to buy your vote again. That's the message I would bring.
Okay. Well, Nick Popovich, thank you so much for joining us this morning and for bringing in these really cool pictures.
Thank you. Thanks. Well,
Appreciate it.
thanks for looking at them. And
Yeah.
Thanks for. I just love sharing that story about Chambers, Fernandez, and Frias. I mean, what a bunch of great
Yeah.
Americans, and I'm alive today because of them.
That's cool.
Never forget those guys. All right, and that Saddam Hussein statue piece is very impressive, I must say.
Yeah, that's
I
cool.
must say. Nick, thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Okay,
Take
see you
care.
later.